Sa paghihigpit ni Canada, I've been getting feedbacks from workers na a lot of their employers are saying they will not be renewed anymore.
Hey guys, here in a nutshell with me, Ina. Nako, okay, today, in-announce ng gobyerno ng Canada ang pagbabawas sa immigration targets nito in the coming years, 2025, 2026, 2027. Binawasan nila in huge amounts, yung tatanggapin nilang permanent residents at yung mga tatanggapin din nilang mga temporary residents. Anyway, hihimayin natin yung data na in-announce lang kanina and just siguro we'll discuss ano ba ibig sabihin nito para sa mga Pilipinong nandito na sa Canada at yung mga siguro nagpaplano pa rin o interesado pa rin magpunta dito sa Canada. Yan, isa sa ating mga suki dito sa In a Nutshell. Welcome back, Kuya Mikmik o Michael Corrales ng Suncor Unlimited. Thank you so much, Kuya Mikmik.
Ayan po. Hello mga kababayan. Thank you po, Miss Ina. Ito po, nandito naman tayo para po magabayan at maturuan para hindi malito at hindi matakot ang ating mga kababayan when it comes to those
Oo.
announcements. Kasi po, Miss Ina, kung titignan natin, ang laki nung, nakakatakot yung title eh. Parang
Slash. Ganun eh. Slash by...
slash, reduce, pause. Yun, one of the words that they used strongly was pause immigration. So talagang nakakatakot naman po pakinggan. And
Oo.
what's interesting po, Miss Ina, with today's announcement, for the first time, there was actually mention of particular temporary foreign residents na ito po yung mga hindi PR na dumadating ng Canada na may restrictions sila. So ito po yung dati wala namang ganon pero ngayon for the first time there was actually
Sige.
a
Nako,
mention.
let's split the discussion, Kuya Mikmik, into two. Yung PR targets and the temporary residents targets naman. Ano unahin natin? Ano gusto mo unahin?
Siguro doon muna tayo sa PR kasi ito naman
Yan.
yung aspiration ng lahat.
Okay.
And this was also there were also changes po with the previous announced immigration targets before. So, yung immigration targets po before was 485,000 for 2024, 500,000 for 2025, and another 500,000 for 2026. So it was, I think, on the news many years ago, they were saying record high immigration targets. So marami. Halos 500,000 for the next 3 years, parang ganun. Tapos biglang this morning, nagsabi ang immigration, they are reducing yung kanilang mga set targets for 2025 and 2026 and alongside 2027. So, yung 500,000, I think it was reduced to 385,000 po yata. So, it was a big reduction, more than 100,000 po yung nawala. And then the following year is the same and it was actually even lower on the third year. So malaki po yung nabawas.
Yeah.
So what this means is konti yung target nilang maging PR. Is it a hard rule? Is it a hard number? So sobra ba ng konti? Mababawasan? They're the ones who only know about it. But does it really impact a lot of people?
Yan.
That's the main question for those who are just about to arrive or planning to come to Canada. My answer on a positive note is always, if you plan properly, there are more immigration pathways now compared to previous years. Dati po wala yung category-based selection. Dati wala yung mga sectors that they would prioritize. So mas maraming options ngayon. It's just that with so many information being shoved to our faces on social media, it's very overwhelming. So yung feeling ngayon napaka-overwhelming na and there are clickbaits, there are creators who make a scary statement about all of these things. But if you read into the transcript and the reports, yung i-reduce nila na number, this is only 0.2% of Canada's population. So it's not a really big number. And by 2027, so sa loob ng 2 taon, by 2027, they are back and being aligned dun sa 0.8% growth rate on the population.
Yeah.
So what's important?
Let's
Yes
go
po.
to the Kuya Mikmik, this one.
Ayan.
Ayan, ito yung impact nung in-announce nilang pagbabawas sa bilang ng mga PR at
Yes.
temporary residents na kanilang tatanggapin. Ito yung sinasabi nila nung sa Immigration Department Ministry.
Yes. So
It
malaki po tignan yung numbers, but on a bigger picture, it's not really a significant slash. And Canada has a history of opening, closing, opening, closing. It's
Nako,
just that
later we can talk about that din. Oo, no.
yung
Sige, pero
open,
ito yung
close,
sinasabi
close,
ni Kuya
open, yan nga.
Mikmik, ang inaasahang decline in the population is 0.2%. Tama ba? Yeah, oh.
Apo, so wala pang 1% actually yung mababawas.
Okay. Tapos, of course, it will also help ease the housing problem nga na isa kasing malalaking complaints dito sa Canada. Ayun.
Yes.
Will reduce housing supply gap by approximately 670,000 units by the end of 2027. Ayun. And also address yung housing affordability and lower unemployment rate. Na again, isa pong malaking
Yes.
concern among locals here.
Yes. So, malaki po kasi yung naging surge ng tao na dumating sa Canada. There was a big jump from 2019 and then the pandemic days. Statistics Canada actually released a good chart. Hindi ko lang po maalala kung saan ko siya nakita, but I saw it this morning. There was a good chart na yung international students, for example, dumami siya. Yung temporary foreign workers from 2019 to 2024, halos dumami din po siya. Dumoble or mahigit dumoble. So there's a huge spike in the growth because Canada showed how welcoming they are during the pandemic. When other countries were closed, Canada was open. So,
Yeah.
so kaya sumikat po si Canada
Okay.
during that time.
Kuya Mikmik, I think one just simple question in people's minds, lalo na yung mga hindi pa PR, is so mapi-PR pa ba ako? Mahirap na nga ngayon, yung mga scores now for you to get drawn, ang taas na ng kailangan. Tapos liliitan pa yung bilang ng mga tatanggapin. Parang, should I worry? What should I do if I feel like, oh my God, baka hindi mataas ang score ko, etc. Yung mga ganong concern.
So yung numbers po kasi, this is on a macro level. So it's a big aggregate ng target for the country. But on a micro level, on yourself, you also have to be honest with yourself. Are you actually qualified? If you're an aspiring worker, are you actually globally competitive enough to work? Kung kayo naman po ay nagbabalak maging student, are you globally competitive to actually be successful after your studies and work and then integrate to Canada society? Nakakatakot po pakinggan yung numbers, but this is also Canada's way of preserving Canadians, protecting the local interests of the country, because kung sobrang dami din ang dumating, ang reklamo nga po ng mga tao, yung local Canadians, they're being displaced because they cannot find a job because there's too many people coming in looking for a job, for example. So if you're competitive, regardless if there's a reduction in the numbers, you would still be okay as long as you know the steps or the proper pathway for you. Basta po alam nyo saan kayo qualified, saan kayo hindi, wag po tayong padalos-dalos. Even with these reductions that they did in the past or in the future, it would still boil down to your qualifications as a person. Kasi hindi naman po porket na-reduce yung quota or yung allocation, lahat hindi na pwede. It's more of they're qualifying better people to become permanent residents and integrate into the society. Because like any country, if there's somebody who comes in and hindi pala sila naging contributing member of the country, so it doesn't make economical sense to make them PR. So ito lang naman po ito.
Yeah.
Tsaka yung conviction ng Pinoy na magawa yung gusto nila. I think the numbers, this is just, numbers are just numbers. But if
Mhm.
you look at yourself, you have control over yourself. Yung
Alright.
numbers kasi nandyan lang yan. But if you're competitive enough, then of course, the more competitive and more deserving people will actually get the PR.
Okay. Naku, Kuya Mikmik, eto nabanggit mo kanina, marami ngayong mga clickbaits, ayan,
Oh,
sa mga
yes.
thumbnail nila. Ako, feeling ko nakakita ako ng isa kanina when I was, browsing through the many vlogs about this topic. Na kanina lang din na lumabas, ano. Meron akong isang nakita ang thumbnail niya. Isa siyang immigration lawyer, dito sa Canada, Kuya Mikmik. Talagang ang title niya, Canada closing its borders. Siyempre nakakatakot, 'di ba? What do you think about that? Is Canada practically closing its borders with the announcement
Ah,
na binigay kanina?
well, Canada cannot afford to close its borders. That's number one. Kung tignan po natin yung release ni Statistics Canada regarding population growth, I think it was 98% attributed to immigration. Yung population growth ni Canada na lumaki, we are now at 41 million, I think, yung
Mhm.
population natin. A few years ago, we hit 40 million. Ngayon, 41 million na. But 98% of that growth is attributed to immigration po. So, for a country that heavily relies on immigration, if they put a stop into it, there's also economic repercussions to this. So number one, doon tayo sa international student kasi yun po yung sikat na sikat. It's a multi-billion dollar industry that supports
Mhm.
400,000 jobs, for example. So if they shut that down, where would those 400,000 people go for work
Mhm.
kung mawawala siya? So that's number one. On the construction industry, 23% of workers are immigrants in the construction industry. Businesses are losing billions and billions of dollars just because they cannot build fast enough, and because
Mhm.
there's lack of people, there's lack of local talent for this. So, sa health workers, 1 out of 4 health workers in Canada ay immigrant po. So, imagine, ang laki ng demand, immigrant yung pumupuno. So, minsan, when people exaggerate the news, um, it's a form of advertisement in itself that if you're fear mongering, minsan mas interested ka. Some people, they're more interested to see the negatives. So they're gonna look into view that one because they want to see the negatives. Kasi kung susundan niyo po sa social media, parang ang dami ring bashers or hate against Canada. Pag makikita niyo yung mga Filipino bloggers, for example, ang daming mga hate comments towards Filipinos in Canada. Yun, so Filipino na lang.
Oo,
Madami.
naku. Ang
Marami po
dami
talaga.
talaga. Oh, parang yung
So,
iba sinasabi pa yung mikmik, naku kayo pinagsisiksikan niyo pa yung sarili niyo diyan. Ayaw na nga kayo ng Canada, magsiuwi na kayo.
yes.
Mga ganong
Yes,
comment.
maraming ganong comments. So talagang imagine sa Pilipino pa lang yun. So what if yung mga iba pang lahi and their social media platforms, it's also the same. So yung pananakot kasi minsan it's yun nga po, clickbait, Miss Ina, para mapansin sila, panoodin,
Mhm.
they get more views, they get more followers. Yun kasi yung gusto ng iba na ano po. So sometimes the truth is actually being clouded by the headlines.
Okay. So, what you're saying is, don't panic.
For me, don't panic kasi for me, ang mas nakakatakot na balita, yung more definitive that it would impact you directly. For example, pag sinabing um, wala ng tourist visa, for example, yun, that
Oh,
would
yeah.
impact you directly if you want to apply for a tourist visa. If they say they are reducing numbers, that means the opportunity is still there. It could be more competitive, but if you know yourself that you are competitive enough to get in, if you're competent, if you're compliant, if you're actually qualified, um, then that should not be something that would affect you, for
Oo.
example.
Oy,
Yun nga lang po, sensationalize lang yung mga balita lately kaya nakakatakot.
okay. Isa pala sa interesting for me, Kuya Mikmik, kanina ko lang nalaman, meron pala talagang limits din sa bilang ng mga ng family reunification. Na,
For
yeah.
for each of the streams, so let's say po yung PR, na 385,000. I think that's the number. I might be messing up the numbers. I think it's 385,000 for 2025. Tama po ba? That number is broken down to different streams, and different streams would have different allocations. So
Mhm.
if we break down the 385,000 na number, we get to see saan yung sa economic class, saan yung sa family class, saan
Mhm,
yung
mhm.
sa humanitarian, saan yung sa business or entrepreneur, saan yung sa provincial nomination, saan yung sa parent, grandparent sponsorship. So may breakdown po siya. It's more important to see gaano ba kalaki yung allocation on the stream that you're actually interested in. Was there a big drop from before, or pwede po kasi sabihin binawasan nila, pero pwede po kasing sabihin, Miss Ina, kunyari po, from 500,000, 400,000, there was a 100,000 reduction. Pero kung kayo naman po pala ay parent, grandparent sponsorship, tapos ang binawasan ay, let's say, provincial nomination, hindi pala
Mhm.
kayo affected.
Okay.
Nagpapanik kayo, hindi pala kayo affected. So, yun po.
Oo. Although I understand, Kuya Mikmik, parang medyo across the board ang pagbabawas na nangyari. Kumbaga, hinugot
Um,
nila sa iba't ibang
yes, technically it should be
pathways
that
to
way.
PR.
Yes.
Oo.
So, yun pong, let's say, tama po ba yung figure ko? Na-curious tuloy ako
So,
kung
ito na
300.
halimbawa, ito na yung for 2025. Sa spouses, sa PR to
Yes
spouses,
po.
partners, and children, 70,000. And then
Parent,
parents and
grandparent. Okay
grandparents.
po.
So, there's always been a chance pala na hindi mo madadala ang family mo, technically.
So for example po, yung parent grandparent sponsorship, there's a certain number of allocations na they would draw and invite people to sponsor their parents if there's space for it. So yung
Oh.
parent grandparent sponsorship po, para siyang lottery system. You register, and then after you register, there's random selection,
Yeah.
because back in the day po, almost 5, 10 years ago, fastest fingers, pinakamabilis mag-submit. Ganun ang
Oh.
labanan dati. So, it wasn't fair for people na, let's say, during the application time, nasa Philippines, mabagal internet, di makasubmit. Or paano yung mga taong disabled, mabagal
Yeah.
mag-type. So what the government did, because there was really a lot of complaint, nagsara po yata siya, I think less than 1 hour or maybe 30 minutes from the time it opened.
Oh.
Puno agad. Kasi po parang 10,000 yung kukunin. So ang ginawa ng government, similar to the expression of interest systems dati na ng provincial nomination ng mga unahan, ang ginawa po ng government, they open the registration process, and then they will do random selection. On the provincial nomination expression of interest system naman, they get to pick the applicants for nomination based on their criterias, not based on sino yung unang nag-submit.
Okay.
So the parent grandparent is works that way, and just like all the other PR pathways, may allocation din po siya. Just like what
Oh.
you showed po
Sa
on your
spousal. So, it's
screen.
not automatic pala. Yung spouse.
It's hindi ko lang po memorize yung sa figures, pero yun po. Each of the classes would have its
Oh.
quotas, pero it doesn't mean that all of them are always filled up.
Oh, okay. Kasi in my
Opo.
mind, sorry Kuya Mikmik, I guess, mali pala ako all this time, na talagang it's your right. Kumbaga kasama sa benefit, kumbaga of being, let's say, a PR, then you get to bring your wife
Siguro
or like
po
some, those in work permits, o, pag mataas yung posisyon,
there's
dadala
a
agad yun. Parang gano'n na nasa isip ko, automatic, kumbaga, hindi pala gano'n. May
it's
limit din
actually
pala.
the stats are good to see ano po yung trending in the last couple of years, kung tumataas ba yung targets or bumababa. Pero yung sa spousal po, na-curious tuloy ako, parang napaisip ako
Kasi
dun sa
nakita ko,
spousals.
binawasan din siya eh. Meron
Ayun
din
po.
pala siyang
So,
pagbabawas.
um, normally po, the big chunk of immigration would normally be on the economic class, because immigration is driven by
Yeah.
the need for immigration is also driven by the need for a bigger economy, or for the economy
Okay.
to grow. Hinahanap ko rin po sa phone ko ngayon yung statistics kasi na-curious ako eh.
Oh, sige, no, never mind, Kuya Mikmik. Let's move on na dyan sa family reunification. Tapos, isa din sa interesting nasabi ay dun sa mga ipipr next year, 40% will come from those who are already here. Oh, bago po natin ipagpatuloy yung episode na yan, ako, just a short commercial. This channel, ito pong in a nutshell, is open for collaboration, guys. Ha? If you're interested in creating content with me, please contact Talentado Creative Agency o yung Talentado CA. Nako, sila po ang mag-handle ng mga collaborations for in a nutshell. Yeah, and for content creators looking for someone to help boost your channels, whether here on YouTube, on Facebook, TikTok, nako, i-consider nyo po ang Talentado Agency. Matutulungan po kayo, ito ng anak ko, matutulungan po kayo in networking. Ako personally, nako, ang dami ko na agad natutunan sa kapwa, talentado, talents na nakausap ko na. No? Ang dami mga tips on how to improve and boost my channel. So yeah, ito po ang contact information ng Talentado CA, and I will also put it down in the description box if you're interested. Okay, back to episode.
Oh,
Okay, why is that a notable number?
40%, so medyo malaki po yung 40% if we're given the allocation. There was mention in the announcement po that the people in Canada already working or international students, they are actually already integrated to the society. They're working or they're educated here. So this goes back to the question kay Minister Miller many months ago. How are you going to deal with the big number of temporary residents in Canada? And one of the things he mentioned before is we can make them permanent. So I don't know if there would be a hint to this one. Marami din po kasi dating lumalabas sa mga chismis na baka daw magkaroon ng PR pathway, yung Tier 4 and Tier 5, yung mga low-skilled under the express entry. So we don't know, we could only dream, we could only hope for the best. Kasalukuyan po ang express entry ay Tier 0, 1, 2, and 3. So yung Tier 4 and 5, yung mga considered pong low and semi-skilled, wala pa siya sa express entry. Pero may mga chika-chika daw, ma'am. Again, chika-chika lang na baka baka po magkaroon din. So we don't know kasi with the changes, it's very dynamic with what's happening in Canada right now. It's actually interesting to observe ano ba yung mga nangyayari.
Okay, kaya ako tinatanong ko yung Mikmik yung 40%. So, what's the target again for next year na EBPR? Parang 385?
I think it's 385. I'm trying to look on my phone din po yung...
Now, 40% of that, kanina sinabi, kukunin sa mga nandito na. Grabe, that automatically reduces a big chunk of, of the available PR slots. Diba?
Yes,
especially for those who are just coming in o ikakaumpisa pa lang dito, di ba? Mag-worry na rin sila, hindi ba?
Yes, it's actually a big number. But it also provides justice to those who are actually here.
Yeah, of course.
Because
yes.
The people who are here, they actually are contributing to Canada. The people not in Canada, technically Canada is taking a risk. You look good on paper, you do qualify, you do hit the points, but what the paper or your points doesn't reflect is your work ethics, for example, your behavior. Marami po kasing mga dumadating ng Canada na landed PR, hindi sila temporary foreign worker, hindi sila international student, mga landed PRs who end up doing jobs far from who they were before in their previous country. So ito po yung mga sinaunang kwento ng mga matatanda na conductor ka, pagdating mong Canada, janitor ka, yung mga ganong horror stories back in the day. Some of them are actually true. May mga dumadating talagang ang ganda ng credentials, but they cannot integrate properly.
Yeah.
And it results to, let's say, asking for government financial support, mental health problems. So
Mhm.
ito naman yung risk for those who are not in Canada versus these people in Canada who already are serving the society. So personally, in my opinion, it's kind of fair. Kasi kumbaga yung mga nasa loob na, nagtatrabaho
Oo,
na po talaga sila.
correct,
Yung mga
correct.
darating pa lang kasi or yung mga darating na PR landed, um, pwede rin po kasi silang ma-culture shock.
Yeah.
May mga kilala po ako, landed PR, pagdating within 1 year, umuwi. Tapos
Oo,
medyo they have to recollect themselves, try again.
yeah.
Kasi nga, the shock is, it's very
Oo,
different sometimes kung saan sila nanggaling po.
correct. No, I guess I was just pointing that out to stress how limited the slots suddenly
Yes,
are becoming for
it feels
PR, no?
so, all of a sudden, it feels more limited, more exclusive,
O,
I
totoo,
think.
oo, sobra.
Um, in the law of supply and demand, being the permanent residency, if you look at it as a commodity, it becomes more valuable now because the
Correct. Ang
supply is
hirap
more
niyang
limited.
makamit. Sa mga panahon ngayon, ang hirap, pahirap ng pahirap siyang makamit, kumbaga, Kuya Mikmik.
Yes.
Oo. Anyway,
So,
okay, we have to move on na ngayon sa ano, haba ng discussion natin sa PR. Sa temporary residence naman, Kuya Mikmik. Okay, what are the notable yung mga changes na kailangan malaman ng mga naka-temporary status pa dito sa
ah,
nandito na. Oh.
um, one of the things when I was browsing on the statistics po, that maybe we can flash, or maybe
Mm,
towards the end we can
sige.
flash. Yung sa study permit, 305,900 permits for 2025, 2026, and 2027. And this is coming from close to 500,000 in the previous years. So ang laki nung slash. Binabaan na po nila noon by I think 20 to 30%. Bababaan pa nila for the next, ito po.
Ayan.
Ayan, 305,900 for the next 3 years. So for students, ito po yung target nila.
Malaking reduction, sobrang laking reduction, no, Kuya
Oh
Mikmik?
yes,
Oo.
wala namang 50%, but it's a really significant number. Again, it boils down to the system being corrupted by bad players, na yung mga hindi qualified talagang mag-aral or yung mga wala talagang chance mag-integrate, pinupush pa rin ng mga agencies para makarating sa Canada. And some of these people are also, yun nga po, nagiging unproductive, basically. So ito po yung, parang siguro po, what Canada is doing is trying to get the best of the best, which is fair because ang laki din naman ng improvement sa life if you become a permanent resident in
Oo.
a country like Canada. So, kasama siya sa, ano ba yung tawag doon? G20 ba? G20 countries
Yeah.
um,
Oh, wait,
na
Kuya Mikmik, I wanna
magaganda.
show something to you, ah. Wait,
Sige po.
ito. Itong line na ito, this is regarding the temporary resident targets. Okay?
Okay po.
Okay. Sabi dito, specifically, compared to each previous year, we will see Canada's temporary population decline by, sige, 2025 na lang pag-usapan natin, by 445,901 in 2025. Decline by, okay?
So,
Mababawasan ng
yes.
more than 400,000. How will that happen? What do you, paano siya may
Um,
mapapauwi who are already here. Ganun ang mangyayari. Tama ba, Kuya Mikmik?
I think it's because some of the, ito rin po yung mga nagiging issue ng mga temporary foreign worker. Sa paghihigpit ni Canada lately, I've been getting feedbacks from workers na a lot of their employers are saying they will not be renewed anymore.
Oh, man. Okay.
So, may mga ganitong nangyayari, kaya everybody's scrambling to find a way to maintain their status. Kaya po minsan makikita nyo yung mga ibang vlogger out of nowhere, biglang ipupush. Mag-asawa kayo para
Alam
nagulat
mo,
ka na lang.
nakakaloka. May tinatawag silang AFAM pathway.
Yes,
Oh
yes.
my gosh.
We jokingly call it PPP, Papa Pathway. When we joke around people, but this was before all of this was happening.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Nagulat na lang kami na everybody was calling it a farm pathway, and while it's true, there is option for that. Syempre, we don't recommend marriage fraud. That's
Oo,
number one.
oo.
Pero marami nga po nagsasabi na yung employers nila hindi daw sila ire-renew.
Oh my God.
So medyo sa paghigpit din ng government, or if you've noticed some of the restrictions by ESDC, yun pong government agency nagpa-process ng LMIA. I think yesterday or the day before, there were also added requirements for high
Yeah,
wage workers.
correct,
So
correct.
it's what's happening is parang Canada siguro masabi natin, Miss Ina, parang self-preservation mode siya sa
Yeah,
kasalukuyan. They were open for so long, but right now with the unemployment rate reaching a certain number, they want to protect the Canadians na magka-work din sila.
yeah.
And then after this one, the restrictions or the added requirements is kind of encouraging the employers to hire locals na lang kasi po yung mga sweldo medyo matataas talaga.
Oo. They're making it more expensive for
To
employers to
to hire
hire
a foreign
outside.
worker.
Yun ang ano,
Yes.
oo, ginagawa
Yes
nila.
po. So, I don't think padalos-dalos namang ginawa ng Canada ito as a government or as a country. I'm sure there are lots of consultations. Our job is to make sure people abide by the laws and the rules and policies so they have a smooth transition. But on a bigger picture, I guess Canada is looking after itself as a country, preserving the integrity of the immigration system, mapa student, mapa worker, LMIA. So, yun naman yung gusto ko sa Pilipino, Miss Ina. Magrereklamo tayo sa una, pero once the dust settles, our brains are working. Okay, so paano ako mag-qualify ngayon?
Oo, oo.
I mean, it's
We
natural
find
for us
ways.
to, yes, it's natural for us to vent out with all the frustrations of what's happening. Mahirap na, lalo pang humirap. Kung dati 500, ngayon 300 plus thousand na lang, lalo pang kumonte, so it becomes more exclusive. Human nature, you tend to vent out first, but then once you're kind of calm and settled, you start thinking, okay, so now that this is these are the rules, how can I play? Parang ganon.
Yeah.
So yun
Oo,
naman yung maganda sa Pilipino, napaka-resilient natin.
correct.
Yung drive natin talaga.
Okay. O, last na lang, Kuya Mikmi. Kanina you mentioned, no? In Canada, it's always a cycle. Maghihigpit.
Yes.
After a while, ano na naman, magluluwag na naman. Ano ba, yeah, can you expound on that a little bit more? Ano ba ang nangyari nung nakaraan? Na paulit-ulit bang nangyayari itong cycle na sinasabi mo? And do you see that happening again after this, after all this?
Personally, before my practice, there was si Canada kasi hindi siya sikat na country as a destination. If somebody says, if you ask a Filipino, I'm talking about the perspective of a Filipino. Pag tinanong po natin ng Pilipino, saan mo pangarap mag-abroad? Ang laging sasabihin back in the 90s or 80s, US, UK, Australia. Ito yung parang mga top destinations. If I recall, nung bata ako, yung lagi yung mga usap-usapan. Canada all of a sudden became popular, and si Canada kasi was very open. There were immigration programs before. Mabagal yung mga processing, but now a lot of the applications are modernized and online na. Mas mabilis na yung mga resulta. Dati po kasi parang ang provincial nomination na pathway for PR, 4 to 7 years, if I recall. Yung mga nauna kong mga kamag-anak po, in the 80s or 90s, 4 to 7 years yata silang,
Oo.
parang nung you submit, you forget, magulat ka na lang, ay, PR ka na pala ng Canada. Parang
Yeah.
ganun po katagal. Now it's very, the systems have been vastly improved. But when it comes to the restriction, yung like anything else, there's what they call a boom and a bust. So biglang mag-boom, biglang magsara. Bukas sara, bukas sara. Ang economic cycle ganun din, may boom bust din. There's a recession, there's a boom in the economy. Which pretty much follows immigration then also. So if Canada needs more people, magbubukas siya. If Canada doesn't need that much people, like right now, Canada is trying to catch up internally on housing, resources for the people, healthcare, etc. So babagal siya ng konti. Just like what the news article this morning said, they're putting a pause, a
Yeah.
slight pause. They used the word pause. They didn't use the word stop. So because they cannot stop naman talaga.
Oo.
So maraming possible changes. Ang pinaka-inaabangan ko po yung in-announce nila about open work permits, yung mga asawa po ng temporary foreign workers and international students. There were changes before, but a few weeks ago, there was mention of it again.
Oh.
And ang sinabi po kasi in the coming weeks or so, so yun po yung inaabangan ko na akala ko kasama na yung announcement today.
Oh, sige.
Yung
Baka
kinakatakutan po na,
magluluwag ulit, ibig mo sabihin, Kuya.
well, hoping for the best, pag nagluwag, good. It helps
Mhm.
families become together. Pag naghigpit, then baka matulad tayo sa ano ba, UK tsaka Australia yata na walang open work permit.
Oo.
If I recall, parang wala po yata silang open work permit sa ibang streams nila. So ito yung hindi pa po kasi tapos yung taon, so we don't know if there's still mga huling pasabog, but
Nako.
what's important is you keep yourself updated kasi nga po sa dami ng information. Go to canada.ca, doon po kayo magbasa. Ako, I make summarized videos, 1 minute, 30-second
Ay,
videos
oh
of
my
what
gosh, oo nga
happens.
pala, hindi ko na na-play. Guys,
Ay, okay lang po.
puntahan niyo yung Facebook page ni Kuya Mikmik. There are
Ayun po.
summaries there. Yung mga TikTok
Yes.
videos niya, which he also shares on Facebook as Reels.
Yes. So,
Ayan.
I make those videos. I break them into parts para po yung mga tao kasi ma'am tamad magbasa eh. So at least
Oo.
kung makatulong man yung reels ko sa kanila, at least they get informed properly. But if you want full access to the knowledge, canada.ca is there. All
Yes.
of the announcement, the statistics that Miss Ina displayed earlier, they could all be found in canada.ca. So you could also um, check the information, understand the numbers better because right now it's a numbers game with the allocations. Can
Mhm.
we predict a pattern? It's hard to predict a pattern on a 3-year data kasi tatlong taon lang lagi eh.
Yeah.
And as history has shown now, for the first time, the immigration targets have control on temporary residents. So yung
Yeah.
international student tsaka yung temporary foreign workers. So very dynamic, maraming pagbabago. But if yun nga po, like sinasabi Miss Ina, be honest with yourself. Are you even qualified to begin with before you panic? Kasi baka
Yeah.
naman
Correct.
na-stress kayo, hindi nyo alam, di pala kayo qualified to begin with. But if you're
Yeah.
qualified, push nyo lang kasi nga, sino ba yung nagsabi, Miss Ina? Si Wayne Gretzky yata, one of the great
Oh.
Canadians. Correct me if I'm wrong. Parang sabi niya, you miss the shots you don't take.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so kumbaga, kung di nyo susubukan, di nyo rin makikita kung ano yung result.
Correct. Ay, nako. Well, anyway, alam mo, dapat, and marami pang pwede pag-usapan nun, like what available pathways there are because as you mentioned, kahit na
Oh, yes.
naghihigpit, nagbabawas ang gustong tanggapin, there are still
Oh,
available
yes.
pathways for
Yes.
those who are skilled and, i-assess nyo na lang nga sarili nyo. Tama si Kuya Mikmik if you
Yeah.
feel that you can compete.
Yes, kasi po, for example, if you guys are tracking the recent provincial nominations na lang po, for example, Ontario nominated a lot of health workers a few weeks ago. British Columbia yata or also Ontario nominated a lot of early childhood educators. So
Ay,
ito yung mga
ganon.
kakaibang, yung mga dating hindi natin napapansin na mga pathway, meron pala. Or yung po mga trades or yung lagi ko sinasabi sa mga tao, mga retail butchers na PR din
Mhm.
sila. So that's why I always tell people, if you have a target, pag sinabi nyo kasi gusto nyo mag-Canada, you have to break it down saan sa Canada. Kasi po, kada isang province, they would have their own specific needs.
Yeah.
So
Saan at anong kaya mo bang gawin?
yan, tama po. Saan sa Canada, ano bang kaya mong gawin? Match ba kayo nung province
Yeah.
na yun? Pag hindi, It's either maghanap kayo ng perfect match na province sa inyo, or be honest with yourself if you need to learn new skills to align with the province you want. Yung iba po kasi, Miss Ina, basta maka-Canada kahit anong province. Yung iba naman po, they have specific
Yeah.
preferences because their friends, their families are there. So kung hindi match yung existing experience or skills ninyo, there's always time to improve yourself. Retooling or learning new sets of skills to align with Canada's needs, because the government and the provinces are very transparent what they need in
Yeah.
terms of the economic needs. So dun yung itapat yung sarili po ninyo. So
Oh.
again, be honest with yourself, align yourself. Kung magrereklamo lang kasi tayo, walang mangyayari. Pero kung if we follow by the rules, then there's of course there's opportunities there.
Yeah. Ay, nako. Okay, sige, we will end this episode here. Oh, napahaba na nga ang aming discussion. But thank you as always. Oh my gosh, Kuya Mikmik, I appreciate your time. Siningit mo ako
Ay,
sa
salamat po.
busy mong schedule. Maraming
Ay, salamat
salamat.
po. Kasi po, dapat din naman talagang malaman ng tao na it's not the end of the world yet. There's still hope. There's still opportunities. You just have to know which one is for you.
Yeah. Okay, sige, we'll end that there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you again, Kuya Mikmik. Okay,
Salamat
bye
po. Thank you po.
guys!
Bye.